Hello, and welcome to my podcast discussion for Survivor 41, Episode 3. This will be my recap, review, and predictions, as well as discussing the new twists added in this episode. So let's get started. We start the episode at the Yasa camp. Liana is upset that Xander wasn't voted out. She's feeling pretty emotional, like she's getting broken down from everything that's been happening. Liana misses the advantage while she's upset and it's dark. Tiffany ends up finding it. It seems like it's been obviously planted. It's like right in their fire pit, so everyone should have been able to see it. She has to sneak out at night and go to an island and make a decision once she's there. We then go to the Ua tribe. Most of the tribe is hanging out on the beach listening to JD do impressions of other Survivor castaways. A little side note, I didn't think he did a very good job of his woo, or his ream for that matter, but it doesn't really matter. They're having fun with it. Brad is back in camp, and he finds an advantage right under his foot, same as Tiffany's. Again, it seems like it was pretty obviously planted so that someone would be able to find it really easily. We then go to the Luvu camp, where Sydney tells Danny that in the middle of the night, Nasir came to her and said they have to get rid of him. We get a flashback confirming that this did actually happen. Deshawn thinks Nasir has no strategy and is just creating chaos by throwing ideas out there. We hear from Nasir that he thinks Sydney is playing a double agent and is talking to everyone. He feels like this is putting him into trouble. Sydney feels they can live without Nasir, and then she sees the Beware advantage in plain sight and doesn't want Heather to get it. We don't get any reason why she doesn't want Heather to get it, but she says that she doesn't want Heather to end up finding it. At the Ua camp, JD is searching for an idol or an advantage. He can't find it, so he figures someone else might have already found it. He suggests Ricard because he's sly and sneaky, but then he also thinks how Shan is smart and might not tell her, and Jeannie has been searching a lot, and Brad just stays in camp. We find out that Brad did find it with Jeannie, and we get a flashback to that. Brad realizes that Xander said his phrase, so he must have their camp's hidden immunity idol, or their Beware advantage. Brad tells Shan about both his advantages, so she knows that he trusts her. We then go to, that night, the boat ride over to the other island. Brad makes a Ferris Bueller-style dummy of him in bed to sneak out to the boat. The Ua tribe is sleeping on the beach, just as a side note. I don't know if their shelter wasn't that good, or they just all decided to sleep on the beach that night. Maybe it was Brad's idea to go out there and sleep on the beach so it'd be easier to sneak off. I'm not really sure. We then see Sydney sneak out while everyone's sleeping, and then Tiffany just kind of walks out. The rest of her tribe already knew she had the advantage. They all come to a beach. It kind of looks like the Edge of Extinction Island from the past seasons. They get another prisoner's dilemma, this time for a tarp or steal a vote. Split choice tarps get nothing and all steal a vote. They all lose their vote. I'll explain more of that at the end of the recap when I talk specifically about the new twist. Sydney feels cautious, doesn't trust Tiffany. Tiffany doesn't trust Sydney, but Brad is going to take the risk. We see the results. Brad gets the steal a vote. Tiffany and Sydney get nothing. At the challenge, Brad and Xander both say their phrases, but the Luvu tribe doesn't say theirs. Tribes have to swim out and walk across a rope. Once everyone is across, they then have to dig out some sandbags, and then they have to throw them onto little platforms above them. Once Xander and Brad are the last to go from their starting point, Xander tells Brad that he likes what he said about broccoli, and this just reminded me of season 20, Heroes vs. Villains, when JT had written the note for Russell, and Colby tells Russell to go get the idol from JT after the challenge. But anyways, back to the challenge. Tiffany is struggling on the rope for Yasa, but she does make it. Yasa manages to catch up, and they're all throwing bags at the same time. JD gets a little overconfident, and he's trying to do like a layup, and he's completely not even coming close to making it. Makes a little bit of a fool of himself, and Jeff makes sure to point it out that he's going for style instead of being efficient or effective. And he stays on doing that for a little bit too long until Brad switches out with him and starts to do pretty well. Xander is doing awesome for Yasa, as well as Deshaun for Luvu. Luvu manages to finish first, and Brad is trying to catch up for Ua, but falls just short, and Xander manages to win or get second place for Yasa. So that means Ua is going to Tribal Council. Brad has the advantages, but he can't use them. Back at the Ua tribe, Shan catches JD's advantage. He was being a little sloppy, and he had the paper just kind of hanging out of his shorts. They find out that he's been lying ever since the beginning when he told them that he had protected his vote when they went off. They already suspected he was lying, but they didn't have any concrete evidence until now. Ricard thinks JD will be indebted to them, so they should take out Brad while they can. JD gives Shan his extra vote as a sign of trust. Shan isn't really certain which way to go still, though. She could go with Ricard and vote out Brad, or she could go with Brad and Jeannie and vote out JD. At the Tribal Council, JD gets to talk about how much Survivor means to him. They make it seem like he's going home because they did this last episode with Voce, how he talked about his childhood before getting voted out. And at that moment, I knew he wasn't going home because I don't think they would do that 2 episodes in a row. It would have been way too obvious. Nobody uses any advantages, so Brad is voted out 3-1. Brad still couldn't vote because of having that one advantage, or disadvantage in this case. So as for the new twist, we get this new version of the prisoner's dilemma. You get a tarp for your tribe, or steal a vote for yourself. To get the tarp, everyone needs to choose the tarp. If everyone chooses the steal a vote, they all lose their next vote. On a split decision, those who chose tarp will get nothing, and those that chose steal a vote get the steal a vote. I again think it's best to go with the steal a vote. The tarp is nice, but they've had pretty good weather so far, and they aren't going to be there as long as in past seasons. It's only 26 days. Even if they lose their next vote, they are still blocking the other 2 players from getting a steal a vote and keeping them from having a vote in the next tribal council, whenever that may be. In the case of Luvu, that could go as long as until they merge, which would be a good thing if you're keeping one of them from having a vote. On top of that, for Brad, he might not have a vote anyways, so it wasn't much of a risk for him. So I think he made the right decision in choosing to steal his vote, or choosing to steal a vote. My review for this episode, it was a bit of a mixed bag. I liked everything that was there, but it's the stuff that we didn't get that bothers me a little bit. I like the editing for this episode, doing a lot of storytelling through flashbacks, but on the other hand, every conversation we saw was just about strategy and the new twist or advantages. We didn't get any just human moments. This is a great cast, but we aren't getting to see how they interact with each other outside of gameplay. This is especially evident with the Luvu tribe, who we've barely seen, and we even got Sydney saying that she didn't want Heather to get the advantage, but we have no reason why she doesn't want her to. I think seeing how the tribes interact with each other a little bit more would give us a little better context for why certain players don't want to work together or do want to work together. And I think in the case of the Luvu camp, I think a lot of viewers would have a very tough time even saying who Heather is. This season has been very fast paced and fun, but I do think they need to take some more time to show us the player interactions. Like I said, this episode was a lot of fun, but I will still give it a 7 out of 10, but I think it could be a sign of this season as a whole going downhill if they don't start to show us more of those other human moments between the cast. For my predictions, last week I said that I think that we might see the demise of the Yasa tribe, but this episode went entirely away from that. We focused on the Uwa tribe. We might still get the Yasa tribe decimated. It just might be a couple weeks before we get back to them losing. If we are going to see a tribe swap in this season, I think it'll happen in the next episode. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going until one of the tribes can be absorbed by the other two. I think next week we'll see Luvu find their Beware advantage, but I don't know what happens with Brad's idol now that he's out, so we'll have to wait and see what that means for it. Having a look at our winner predictions, Evie didn't really get much this episode other than Tiffany showing her the advantage she got, so we'll see where her story is going next week, I guess. Most of this episode focused on the Uwa tribe. Brad was voted out a little bit earlier than I expected him to, but I never thought he was going to be a winner to begin with. Shan is shown to be in a great position in her tribe, but I do think she made a bad decision in voting out Brad over JD. Brad has proven to be loyal to Shan, showing her all his advantages, and while that would give him power right now, he still can't use it. He doesn't really have that much power at the moment. That isn't really too much of an advantage for him. And even if he could use it, I don't see him using it against Shan. They seem to have a pretty good relationship from what we've seen. JD, on the other hand, in this episode was proven to have lied from the very beginning, and so she shouldn't have had any reason to believe him when he says that he's in her debt. He would have said anything, just stay in the game. JD is who Ricard wanted to keep, which is smart on his part since Brad didn't seem to be loyal to him, but only loyal to Shan. So getting rid of getting rid of Brad is probably better for Ricard. But for Shan, trying to appease Ricard in this way might end up costing her. She might be giving him a little bit too much power. I suspect that once the merge hits, we could see Shan and Evie teaming up, since Evie wants an all-women final three, and I think Shan will like the sound of that. That's all I got for this episode. Thanks for listening, and please hit like and subscribe.